Welcome on in, golf fans. It's your boy Gsluke here with our course preview for this week's Memorial Tournament. Gotta break down all things Muirfield Village, get you ready for everything you need to know about this week's tour stop. But first off, a look at the course details, a hole-by-hole breakdown of all the shots required around here, as well as my course details, comp courses, and some key stats that I'm using to identify my top plays to make sure we're all on the same page heading into this week and you can get all of your research started. So without further ado, let's not waste any time at all. Let's start off with, first off, a look at Muirfield Village. If this preview seems a little bit more concise than usual, it's because it has to be. I've had a bunch of internet issues on Memorial Day, and because Xfinity doesn't want to work on the holiday, well, I'm on an internet hotspot, so I already recorded like a 40-minute preview. We've got to get that down to 5 minutes so that it doesn't take 24 hours to upload. So let's go through this quickly. We got bent grass from tip to toe. It is a northeastern golf course, a little bit closer to the Midwest, but the same kind of agronomy as what we've had this part of the schedule. So about 70 par 72, 7,600 yards, has some length to it, but with the kind of rollout like you saw in Texas, it's similar up there in Muirfield. It's not going to play quite as long as that. So you've seen some short hitters find success, and as you'll see with the key stats that we're going through later, driving accuracy is actually preferable over that driving distance. They've got some small greens, and another thing that really distinguishes this golf course is not only the long rough that you have around here, that is 4 inches long. We can't really gloss over that, but also how difficult these green complexes can be. They're almost like Augusta National with the kind of undulation that you've got, and if you miss the greens, not only are you going to deal with that rough, but also shots that have some really nasty slopes to them. So Jack Nicklaus, of course, the designer of this golf course, and he's done a lot of changes over the last few years to make this place even more difficult. And when you take a look at the averages around here, it plays harder than your PGA Tour average in pretty much every category but fairway percentage, and it's because you do have some wide driving corridors, but if you can keep yourself out of the 4-inch rough, that is a massive advantage this weekend. The fairways are just wide enough to where if you are an accurate player, you can hit 10, sometimes even 12 fairways per round, which is why you found some of those players finding success. And, you know, Scotty Scheffler, a complete driver of the golf ball, but that's why you had your Morikawas, your Hadwins, your Seabezes also finishing in that top 5. You know, your Sepp Strakas, your Matt Fitzpatricks aren't really known as bombers off the tee. So I think that's what distinguishes this long, hard golf course, is that you don't have to go and bomb and gouge it like a lot of US Open or PGA Championship venues, which in my opinion makes it a much more fair golf course and also one that's a lot more fun to watch. So the fairway average a little bit higher than usual, as I was mentioning, but your green average about 10 to even 11.5% lower than your PGA Tour average. It's hard to scramble around here with that 4-inch rough and the kind of undulation on the greens. You're going to see a few less 3-putts than normal just because the greens are only 5,000 square foot, but don't let that trick you. They have a bunch of slope to them. They are very difficult to putt from 5 to 10 feet, so you're going to have to be on your games to get the ball in the hole. And now for a quick shot-by-shot analysis. So first off, I got hole 1, 490 long par 4, and it gets even tighter the longer you drive it. So an example where accuracy is preferable over that distance, because if you have a 200-plus yard iron shot out of that 4-inch rough, you've got almost no chance at hitting that green. And hole 2 is 458, so a little bit shorter than hole 1. I would say a better birdie chance as well because you have something scoreable in, but this is about as easy as it gets around Muirfield Village. Next up, you have 390. This is a sneaky hard hole because if you miss the fairway here, the second shot becomes extremely problematic with that water in play. So 99% of players are going to take something less than driver so that they can ensure that's going to happen. And really, the only time I've seen somebody take something other than driver was Jordan Spieth, who hit it up on this hill and then almost ended up making eagle. So maybe there's something to it, but most people are going to play it like a pitch and putt par 4. Next up, we have hole 4, which is 210 yards. The back hole locations here are among the most difficult for par 3s on the PGA Tour. Hole 5 is 541, so a dog leg from left to right. If you can hit the short stuff, though, every single player in the field can reach in too. The issue is that the angle off the tee is extremely awkward, and you're going to see some of the longer players take driver and purposely miss the fairway to the right, because this tree, if you choose to take less than driver and you end up blocking it to the right, could make it impossible to even advance it near the green. Hole 6 is 455, so another more of a positional par 4. It kind of reminds me of the API in this fashion, as there's a lot of holes where you can't take driver, and it's a long golf course, so you're going to be leaving yourself quite a long distance in for a lot of these pitch and putt par 4s. This is another example of that, where if you take less than driver, you might even have 175 yards into this pin. Hole 7 is 586, so a slightly harder to reach par 5 and 2, but most players in the field can go for it as long as they hit the short stuff, but it is a hard angle off the tee. You do have to hit a little bit of a draw to hold the short stuff, particularly when it gets firm and fast. And hole 8 is a 200-yard par 3, an extremely difficult green complex, one of the smaller ones out here, and when they don't move up that tee box and it's playing 200 yards, is an absolute brute. 9 is 417, so another shorter, more positional hole, extremely wide fairway, so I would actually argue that this is one of the easier holes out there. Kind of depends on the pin, because a back right or a front right pin location does bring the water into play, but it's still a scoreable club in, so I'd expect to see some birdies even with those tougher pins. 10 though, so if they do have guys starting off the back, is another difficult hole just like hole 1, so it's not like one side's getting the better side of the draw. They're both pretty brutal. 11 is 591, so a harder to reach par 5 and 2. Even your bombers, unless you're hitting it in the short stuff, aren't really going to be going for this one and 2, so a lot of people playing it more positional, which depending on pin location, pretty much no matter what, you're going to have a birdie look, but this like back left, middle left might be a little bit harder than the ones towards the right side. 12 is 180, so a very thin green. This is a famous hole around Muirfield Village. In fact, that front left or back right pin is one of the hardest holes that you have out here. 13 is 456, so a dogleg from right to left, another more positional tee shot, and you can see where the identity of this course is coming in, right? If you choose to take driver, you have to be so exacting with the kind of angles that you're going to have that you see a lot of those positional guys towards the top. So it's a little bit of a different test compared to your US Open PGA Championship venues, but I argued before that it was a good thing, and I'll stand by that. And 14, another one of those holes. They will sometimes move up the tee box at 14 and make this drivable, something closer to like 310 to 320. And if the players have a favorable wind direction, we have seen them take an on a driver before. 15 is 561, so this is a reachable par 5, a very wide, generous landing area as well, so it is one of the easier, if not the easiest hole that you have on this golf course. Next up, you have 16, which is 220, long par 3, also water down the left side, very demanding tee shot to left side pin locations. 17 is a 500-yard par 4, as you would imagine, a more difficult hole with that kind of length to it. And then finally, 18 is 480, the dogleg from left to right, also demanding with the length, but what you can't really appreciate from the overhead view is all the camber on the fairway from right to left, which makes this creek down in play, which you can't even really see, but it's down there in the shadows of those trees, even more in play than you'd expect as well. And now that we've seen the golf course, let's go through what we're looking for in players this week. So the first key stat that the BTN guys have on here is driving accuracy. And if you took a look at last year's leaderboard, you'd know exactly why that's important. Keeping yourself out of that 4-inch rough is going to be a massive advantage on a week like this. So the players towards the top end of this list are going to see a distinct advantage in the BTN modeling. And you can see in a lot of cases, you've got top 10 model rankings on these sort of players. So in Aaron Rai, number 1 in the field when it comes to hitting fairways. Sungjae Im, Colin Morikawa, guys like Corey Connors, Daniel Berger, and Scotty Scheffler, of course last year's champion, all players that are in the elite tier of this range. And it's not the only stat category that we're looking at. Off the tee, I think shots gained off the tee in general is something to incorporate, because you do have 4 par 5s, you also have some holes that could be potentially drivable. I don't want to act like driving distance is something you can ignore. So on top of driving accuracy, you might want to take a look at the pure combination of both distance and power with shots gained off the tee. You can look at regular shots gained approach. Always want to have good iron play heading into a PGA Tour event. So I like that BTN is including that in what they're using this week. So some of your best iron players lately would be a Scotty Scheffler at number 1, but Sepp Straka, Shane Lowry, Victor Hovland have also been elite with hitting their second shots. Corey Connors, Berger, Patrick Cantlay, Eric Cole, all also going to get a significant bump in the modeling. And just like that driving accuracy, guys that are popping in both categories here are usually top 5 5 top 10 model ranking plays. If you want to focus on specific proximity buckets, 150 to 225 is where BTN is putting their extra emphasis. And when you take a look at the approach distribution on the course tab, you'll see exactly why that's the case. 7 to 10 shots that are coming in this exact bucket. So if you can find players that excel with shots in this range, I think that's another way to try and find a little bit of an edge. So your elite tier players in the dark green there also going to get quite a significant bump. You gotta look at around the green a bit. This is a difficult golf course, but just as I typically mention for these golf tournaments, if you're focusing on guys that miss the green a whole lot and hence have a lot of around the green opportunities, you might be focusing on the wrong things to begin with. Ball striking is the name of a game around a Muirfield Village. Putting isn't something you can ignore. I would say to look at some of the bent grass putting stats, as that is of course the surface that you have around Muirfield Village. So if you take a look at the top end of the bent grass putting list, a lot of these guys you're going to see filtering towards the top end of my model. And then also with the bogey avoidance, this is another difficult, more positional golf course. So whether you want to look at shots gained at comp courses like we're about to go through here in a second, or just bogey avoidance in general, finding strategic players that don't make a lot of those big mistakes really pays dividends around a Jack Nicklaus design. So when we put it all together, you see Scotty Scheffler's #1, which if you make a model and he's not #1, you're probably doing something wrong. But Shane Lowry grading out extremely well. Definitely somebody that I want to keep an eye on. Corey Connors, Henley, Rise, Straka, all these accurate drivers of the golf ball that are also have complete games that gain across all 4 stat categories are the exact kind of players that I was hoping to go and find towards the top end of my research, and exactly what you're getting with the BTN model here. So make sure to check out Bet the Number, filter around with the model, play around with it a little bit to get exactly what you're looking for in your players. But those are a few key stats that you can use for that process. And then in terms of comp courses, I've got 3 to go through here real quickly. Masters Tournament first, they have very similar greens to what you're going to get this week. A lot of undulation to them. It is a little bit of a different test off the tee, I would say. Much less penal rough. In fact, almost no rough around Augusta National. But you can look at Arnold Palmer as well. I know I mentioned that during the hole-by-hole breakdown, that a lot of holes kind of reminded me of what we have at Bay Hill Club and Lodge. You had Russell Henley winning this year, Colin Morikawa in second, Corey Connors in third place. The exact kind of leaderboard that I'm kind of expecting this week. So those 3 guys showing up in a lot of the categories that we've gone through. So not a surprise that I like that. And then also the Genesis Invitational, and the agronomy, by the way, is different at all these different golf courses. Only the greens at Augusta are bent grass, so much different at the Genesis, which is West Coast POA. South Florida with the overseeded POA Trivialis is also going to be a little bit different, but it's the same kind of ball striking test. You've got real difficult greens at Riviera Country Club. This year it was played at Torrey Pines, so don't use the 2025 stuff, but all the past years at the Genesis Invitational, Riviera Country Club, old-time classic design is kind of what Jack Nicklaus was going for, is he wanted to test players across the board. Precision was rewarded around those kind of venues, which is why I'm using those 3 as a comp. So you can use the key stats, you can use the comp courses to try and find some of your top level plays. And that's how I'm getting my research started this week. Alrighty guys, that is all I've got for the course breakdown. Like I said, having some internet issues, so I'm sorry that this one was maybe a little bit more brief than usual, but tried to touch on all the truly important stuff that you needed for your research process so you can have yourselves a week here at the Memorial. But best of luck with everything that you're going with. Smash that like button if you guys haven't already. Also comment down below what you've got as the winning score for the Memorial for a chance to earn a free month on my Patreon page. If you get the exact number, you will win a free month access to all my modeling and projections. That's for main slate, also for showdown and rounds 2 through 4, as well as all the underdog and prize picks content I'm doing for rounds 1 through 4 as well. So give me the guess for the winning score down below to get that access. If you guys want to join right away, don't want to have to win a giveaway to get access to all of those sheets, make sure to join the Patreon page. A link down below to that as well. Help support the channel and all the free content that we're doing here on YouTube, and gives you every single take that I have on a golfer on the week. But that's all I've got, guys. I appreciate your support here on the channel as per usual. Gonna try and get out the DFS and betting preview the same kind of way that we did here. Condensed video so that it doesn't take me like 8 hours to upload it. So best of luck out there, guys. I appreciate your support here on the channel as per usual. And I'll see you guys for all the content throughout the week.